Okay, I'm Ed again. This is December 1st, 2019, and it's a Sunday. Happens to be a Sunday. I hope to be watching my shows later. I watched two shows out of Austin, Texas. One is called Talk Heathen, and the other is called The Atheist Experience. The Atheist Experience has been around for, I don't know, 18 years, something like that. They're two of my favorite shows, and you can imagine why. But today, I'm going to talk about something that has little or nothing to do with my belief or lack of belief in deities or religion or any of that stuff, but more a fact of life that's about aging, let's say. It just occurred to me the other day, the fact that I'm a very feeble human being. I mean, like sitting here, I give an impression that I'm much stronger and capable than I am, but once I'm on my feet, I'm feeble, and you know, not a very strong person physically. I'm hoping, fortunately, that I'm hoping for some fortune that my ability to continue doing something like this at whatever level of I can do it, you know, making videos and stuff, continues for a while. But anyway, this idea of my realization that I am physically feeble, was a bit of a shocker when I realized that, for example, almost any person that I meet, a girl of 12 years old who was normal, healthy girl, could defeat me physically, man to man, so to speak. Because for starters, at least if I'm on my feet, if I was in a chair with my back to the wall, I might have a chance to defend myself. But if I'm standing and that girl decides she wants to beat me up, first of all, she'd give me a shove, and I would either stumble and fall down or just fall down, whatever. And then I would be literally helpless. And it's this realization from my current perspective is not a big deal, except that I think back, like say even 10 years ago and a little further back, I was physically a very strong man. You know, my size is about, I'm roughly, I was all my life 6 feet tall, or 5'11" and 3/4 or something like that. You know, so I was an average tall guy. And I think that shrunk to about 5'10" and a little bit now, maybe, depending on how straight I stand up and stuff. You all know the way that happens. But anyway, the point was, there was a time in my life back there, I was heavy duty into weightlifting, I was a ball player, I was an athlete. So, you know, I could take a barbell that weighed more than twice the weight of my wife on a barbell, and I could put it over my head. I had that kind of strength. And maybe I was a little bit the kind of person that if push came to shove, I would be basically, don't fuck with me, you know, because I'm a strong guy. I don't want to, if I make it sound like I was a bully or something, I certainly wasn't. The only fights I ever was involved in were pretty much involved in sports or that kind of thing. So I wasn't a physical being. But there was still that you know, in any given conversation, or maybe it was almost an elephant in the room that, you know, I'm a strong dude, and don't mess with me, and don't mess with my friends either, because, you know, if you hurt my friend, I'm going to hurt you, and don't bother my wife, or you know, that kind of thing. Now here I am, 79 years old, and feeble. And maybe what I'm wondering about is the fact that I made this adjustment from, you know, being this big, strong dude to being a feeble old man. And it's, I think it's gone fairly smoothly. An interesting thing, a little reversal on that whole thing, is that when I was that guy, you know, strong, physically strong, and what the hell did the song say? Ready and willing, and, you know, don't fuck with me, especially physically. I don't think I was well, what I was, in a certain way, was a coward. Now, I know that doesn't seem to fit, because I was a big, tough guy. But I was, I've had this discussion with Glenn, my wife, and she doesn't quite agree with me. She doesn't like the idea of me calling myself a coward, but I think I was. For example, the kind of thing I'm talking about is that when I was, I told the story when I was 19 years old, my first wife-to-be was pregnant, and I talked to a priest and so on. When at that time in my life, and up until very recently, I would meet someone like a priest or any clergyman, anybody with a uniform or anything, and I was kind of like, yes sir, no sir, you know, I would call the priest father, so and so, and everything. Now, that's not being a coward maybe, but I was unduly respectful out of a kind of fear, I think it was. Anybody that wore a uniform was special, especially religious people. Now, I'm not sure if I can justify that as being a coward, but that's what it feels like now, because now I have friends. One friend I speak with regularly, weekly, who's a preacher, and I've never got, he doesn't like, he's a new born-again kind of guy, so he doesn't like to say he's a pastor or anything else, but he seems to be okay with the idea of preacher. Anyway, there's a guy that he preaches to people. He teaches religion to people. There was a time in my life when I would have been almost, in a sense, afraid of him, or you know, like, whoa, I would have to be, I'd mince my words and would not say anything. I wouldn't say fuck with a mouthful of poop, or, you know, or anything, that kind of thing. But now this guy is hi Ron, how are you? He's my friend. And if I met a priest, I don't know any priests here where I live, but if I met them, I'd find out what the guy's name is. Hey, your name George, Jorge, whatever. Hi Jorge, I'm Ed. That's the way it would go. That's the way it would go down. So I'm not sure I'm doing a good job of it. I know I'm not doing a good job of it, but I'm kind of showing a way that before, physically, I was the biggest, strongest dude, and most of the time I was physically superior to whatever man I was dealing with, you know, whether it was a religious person or not. And yet I would have been this a cowing sort of yeah, you're a priest, oh hello father, that kind of thing. And now I don't feel that way. I don't feel like I'm mean to them or anything. It's just that you're a man, Jorge, you happen to be a priest, sacerdote in Espanol. Say, yeah, okay, cool, let's talk. And I'm going to refer to him as Jorge, if that's his name. And not Father. Now, if we're in a church and he's doing communion and he's doing his job and all that stuff, I will be respectful enough to say, probably refer to him as Father, but not when we're sitting drinking a cup of coffee or shooting the breeze or having a beer. So here it is. It's the realization that here I am in my life, and those things that I've been trying to outline, and I know I haven't done it very well, have just reversed in a certain way. There was a time when those people in uniform, especially religious clergy, I was kind of in awe of, and had to yes sir, no sir kind of attitude, and I don't have that anymore. At the same time, I've come to the realization and the reality of I'm not at all physically imposing anymore. I'm an old, feeble man. And I can't even explain to you why this is important to me, but it's somehow the realization on my part is that I went from over, say, especially the last 20 years when I referred to myself as first referred to myself as an atheist, I was this physically imposing person. And now I'm physically feeble and not at all imposing. And somehow I have drifted and learned to accept that. And in those situations, it's better. Life is better for me. I'm talking to my friend Ron, who is a pastor, and I feel absolutely zero sense of, oh, this guy's important, or any of that stuff, while at the same time realizing that he may not be important, but Ron's 70 years old too, but he could kick my ass in a heartbeat, because as soon as I stand up, somebody goes like that flick and I'm fall on the ground because I'm feeble. And somehow my attitude has gone from, there was a time when it was don't fuck with me, to now it's more of an attitude, I'd like to talk to you, and I'm prepared to challenge. The guy's a priest. I don't give a shit if I'm talking to the Pope. It probably wouldn't work very well, because there's no way I'm going to bow and scrape and that. But I'd like to say, hey Pope, I got some questions for you. Let's have a chat. I know it's a fantasy I guess I have or something. But the point is that I'm no longer in awe of those kind of people, even though in some ways I should be, because any of them could kick my ass physically. But that whole thing about the might is right thing is gone, sort of thing. And I'm on the other end of the stick. I don't have any power, physical power. But I also don't have any fear of authority, let's say. If somebody points a gun at me, I'm as afraid as anybody else. But you can't awe me by wearing your bishop's suit or something like that as a Catholic, or whatever, somebody, guy that's a believer in Islam or something like that, and they're dressed up in their stuff. As far as I'm concerned, they're just a person, and they're nothing more. Now mind you, with the Muslims, I'd be a little more careful there, because those guys are more apt to pull out their AK whatever and start shooting. Anyway, I have no idea if you as a listener are understanding I'm trying to explain my experience of going from, in pretty recent years, I was a pretty strong guy, physically capable. I could defend myself in pretty difficult situations, and now I'm in the situation where I can't defend myself from a strong 10 or 12-year-old child. And it kind of, the reason I'm talking about it is it almost feels like I'm celebrating that. I'm celebrating the fact that I don't have that muscle thing anymore it's not even an elephant in the room. I can't use it as a threat to, if we're having a discussion. Now, the only thing I've got going is what's in my head and my sense of, I mean, the whole idea about me being an atheist is well down on the list. Above that is skeptical thinker, humanist, those kinds of things, rationality and those kinds of things. The fact that I'm an atheist really is an unimportant part of my definition of myself as a person. Those several other things are much more important in defining myself. Okay, I'm concerned that what I'm discussing might not be understandable, but it's something to do with the fact that I'm 79 years old and physically feeble, and how that I guess the point is that it seems to me like if you're physically feeble, I would tend to be more, oh gee, don't hurt me sort of thing. But it's not. I've gained a certain amount of courage. I'm sure if you've got a gun and you're threatening me, but I'm not threatened by your authority, let's say. The fact that you're wearing a purple gown like a bishop or a priest or something like that. Nope, there's nothing there. You're just a guy, and I'd love to talk with you. So once again, it's December the 1st in 2019, and today Jose Luis has figured out that we're going to have better sound system. I'm wearing a mic on my person that we haven't used before, trying to avoid problems of noise, ambient noise, and that kind of thing. And fortunately or unfortunately, this morning there's not much ambient noise, but still we're hoping that this will be a successful kind of experiment. Okay, that's my subject for today, and thank you.